Yeah.
You did Happy Thank You More Please, and it was part of Sundance.
Yeah.
So what do you have to say about that? What did you think that it took off the spotlight from? Did you think How I Met Your Mother took off the spotlight from your other work in any way?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how much work that other. I think it's probably helped me get attention in some level from my other work, and maybe hurt me on some level just because people can put you in a kind of box of a sitcom. And directing your first film is hard no matter what.
Yes.
But I love that film. Sundance was so good to us. Won the Audience Award there that year, and then my next film, Liberal Arts, went to Sundance. So I'm really grateful to that festival for everything they've done for me in the films. But I love making movies, and I want to make a lot more.
And about the reception that it got, and do you think that people accepted you as another character apart from Ted Mosby?
That movie was more important to me as a writer-director than as an actor on some level.
Okay.
Would
you put it above your work in How I Met Your Mother?
I don't know how to do that. But this year, the acting I've done this year, I acted in a play called Disgraced on Broadway, and then I have this show coming out called Mercy Street about the Civil War, about a hospital in the Civil War. So that felt more like just me stretching my wings as an actor a little bit more. Not to say that those roles in the movie weren't. I think acting on film is challenging, but
as a director, the sense of ownership that you get, apart from doing a show on Broadway or acting in a TV show that's hugely popular.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that ownership that you get?
The ownership?
The ownership of the content. You decide.
Well, when I write it, I certainly feel a little. I don't know if ownership's the right word. It just feels a little closer. It feels a lot closer to you. It sprung from your imagination. Theater, you certainly feel a little more. If someone else is editing your performance, you're not in charge of what takes they're using, and maybe you would have preferred something different. Theater, you're basically editing yourself because you do the whole performance start to finish,
and you have a lot of scope to expand. So,
and then we move on to
just one more question. So, about your first trip to India, and what was different this year?
Well, I was in the South for a wedding, for my friend's wedding about 7 years ago. So I went up north to Rishikesh and Haridwar.
So it was personal the first time?
It was personal, yeah.
Okay. And this time, is there any work commitment that pulled you?
It's not personal. No, this time was, I came here for this, but I had a couple days, so I went up north.
And a quick word about your trip north, and you said at the talk that Ganges took a dip in.
In Rishikesh I did.
Yes.
But we should go around.
Yes,
very limited time.
Let's talk about your ink experience. People had a certain kind of expectation from Josh Radnor before you came up on stage. So can you tell us why you chose to talk about the topics that you did, and what kind of connection did you hope to achieve, like Josh Radnor as a person at ink?
Well, I don't know. I'd wanted to write about this idea of being a celebrity, but being conscious about it and using it rather than it inhibiting you, but using it to grow you. So it was kind of a writing project that I had. Actually, my working title was The Yoga of Celebrity, which is, like in the Bhagavad Gita, they said the yoga of this, the yoga of that, and I thought the yoga of celebrity. And so I'd taken some notes on it, but when I said yes to come to the conference, I figured it would sufficiently scare me enough that I would actually write it, because I had to deliver it. But it's a little bit. It's kind of a part of my life that I don't really talk about all that much, just because I want to still stay relatable, and I'm from Ohio. I'm not from a show business family or something, so it feels sometimes a little grotesque to talk about it. But I wanted to talk about it from the perspective of someone who, like, I'm doing my best in the midst of a weird situation. I would like to just have a conversation, and then, but standing out in the hallway, there's a lot of people come up and want pictures, and it's just a different aspect to my life that I either am going to find some healthy way to process it, or I'm going to go a little crazy, and I would rather find a way to stay sane in the midst of it and help use it to grow me. So that's what I was trying to do with the speech, and then hopefully it was relatable beyond just my own personal circumstances.
So did you meet anyone from the showbiz, because we had a lot of speakers from India who were, and also Shamin. So what kind of experience did you have sitting in the audience rather than up on stage?
I've had a really inspiring experience. I'm friends with Sharad, who did the thing on comic books, and so he's kind of the reason I met Lakshmi, and this is why I'm here. I loved his talk. Emily really made me laugh. But I loved today. They were wonderful yesterday, but today, I don't know if it was just because I was speaking today that I was a little more glued to my seat. Maybe it was terror, but I found it to be really inspiring. All the education stuff, and the woman who was in that marriage, who then went on to help those other women. One of the things is I feel the conference is quite optimistic in that it's people looking for solutions and open to transformation and the idea that a solution exists and sharing. And I find that really inspiring. I'm not I wouldn't want to go to a conference where everyone just talked about how bad everything was and how it was all hopeless and we're going down, the ship's going down. That wouldn't be a fun conference to be at.
So what are the things about India that make you go happy? Thank you, more please.
The people, the landscapes. I mean, the river. I found the Ganges to be. Do you say Ganga? Here?
Ganga.
Yeah, the Ganga. I thought it was so beautiful. I saw a fire ceremony in Haridwar at sundown, and it was quite spectacular. So yeah.
Thank you. Entrepreneurial journey.
My entrepreneurial journey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like as an entrepreneur?
Yes.
Yeah.
In what way do you think of me as an entrepreneur? I mean, I don't have a business outside of my own creations. But I'm interested in it, and I would talk to people about it. I don't conceptualize the world in that way. Like I don't think of other than stories that I want to tell. But I think some people that I've talked to, they'll get an idea and they'll figure out how to create a business about it or how to monetize it. Not in a gross way, but in a way that how can we disseminate this and get it out in the world. I'm kind of thinking about that in terms of film and new distribution models and how to get more people to see your movies, whether it's on their own devices, at home, in a movie theater. All that stuff's really interesting to me, but I'm a little at a loss. I wouldn't call myself an entrepreneur. I suppose I am one on some level, but I don't think of myself that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The next publication, please.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
You've spoken about things like selflessness and kindness. Do you get that from some people when they say, oh, it's easy to say those things when you're successful?
I don't think that I was a jerk before I was successful, and that success made me want to talk about those things. I think in some ways success, because if you realize that you do have some people watching you, it becomes you have more of a responsibility to model that kind of behavior. But that's what my parents taught me. That's what my community was about. It's where I'm from. It's the values I got. So it wasn't like I got successful and suddenly woke up to something new. It was that I realized a lot of the sturdy kind of values that I was brought up with were actually vitally important in the world, and that there was maybe because I was seeing more of the world, I was seeing there was a little more hurt and a little more of an absence of those things, and I started to feel that it was urgent to at least speak about them.
And was this something very personal, or is this something, the showbiz, the industry, the way it is that something that also sort of made you talk about these things?
I worked with a great actor named Peter Garrity in this Mercy Street, and he's I think he's over 70, and he's been at it for a long time, and he said 97% of people you work with in show business are terrific. And it's true. It's not like you walk around, there's this, it's a minefield of bad behavior. It's actually not, because everyone that's working there is doing their dream. Like the costume people, the grips, the camera crew, the actors, the writers, everyone wanted to be doing that. So there's a great enthusiasm for it, and people are excited to be there. There's always bad behavior, and that behavior gets a lot of attention. And maybe look, I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, but I've certainly read a lot of articles about Donald Trump. Why am I reading articles about the guy? There's something about, the notion of the devil being the most compelling character in Paradise Lost. I wish it weren't so, and in some ways I think we underestimate how much people are attracted to virtue and how much they want to read about that. It's just what's offered us. And maybe that's one of the things I'm trying to do in my films, is just offer something that's not rubbing our nose in how horrible we are, but maybe we could be something else.
The next book.
Josh, we heard that you're planning to invest in some startups in India. Is it true?
I don't know where you heard that, because I haven't heard that.
So you're not...
That has not been discussed. And if you should play me back my voice. They've been recording me. No, that hasn't been discussed.
Okay, and we've grown up watching How I Met Your Mother. Like, it was an amazing series. Have you watched...
Second best after Friends.
That was first for me. And have you watched TVF Pictures that's been there in India?
I only saw his talk and it looked really funny, but I hadn't seen it before.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next publication.
You've acted, you've written and directed. Do you have a favorite of the three processes or something that comes most naturally to you?
No, I mean, it'd be like asking to pick a favorite family member or something. I mean, I really do love them all, and I love the one I'm doing in that moment. But I don't, they feel of a piece to me. I don't separate them on some level. It feels like it's just storytelling. It's just a different way of telling a story. I mean, a director is a little bit like, being an actor is like playing a violin in the orchestra, and being a director is like being the conductor, but you're still contributing to the sound wherever you are. Yeah.
Also, can you tell us a little bit about your writing process? Where did you get the ideas for these films? They have a, like you said, they're both hopeful stories, and so is there a connection? Is there somewhere that those stories came from?
Yeah. The first one I just had a couple of different ideas that I tied together. The second one I had a stronger narrative idea, but I never know. That's just my impulse, is to kind of end things on a hopeful note, only because I want to watch a movie that leaves me with some hope. There's that phrase, I don't know if you know, there's thing from the Boy Scouts, which are, in America, that it's something about like campgrounds, like leave them better than you found them. And I feel that way about my characters. Like, I don't want to leave anyone floating dead in the river unless they die in the river. But like, I want them to feel like they've gone through some transformation, and that there's some hope. And because I want to feel transformed by stories, and I want to feel like I have some different sense of myself in the world. I want to be inspired, and even all the ancient stories that Sharad was talking about, those stories do that, I think, and they celebrate virtue. I mean, they're not about, you've seen a lot on TV, certainly in movies too, but a lot about the anti-hero, like how bad can we watch someone be before the darkness overtakes them, and some of that stuff is interesting up to a point, but I feel like we if we get too far in that direction, we forget that there are these other needs we have as audience members.
Entering the last quarter, Diana.
So I've heard you talk about not interested in being a tortured artist, but you've also talked about trying to keep depression at bay.
Yeah.
Those are two difficult things to balance. How do you do that? Can you talk about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think when there's this misconception about, like, I call myself an optimist, but it's not because I'm sunny all the time. It's because I work to stay on the side of optimism, because this is another Winston Churchill quote, but he said something like, I'm an optimist because I don't see the use in being anything else. Like, I actually think we are creating things as we go, and if you think like, this isn't going to work, like, it probably won't work. If you think like, we're going to get this done, you have a better chance of getting it done. So I just feel like it makes more sense in a very practical way to be an optimist. That doesn't mean I don't get hit with dark moods or melancholy or hopelessness, but I try to rally and get myself back on the side of possibility. So in some ways, keeping depression at bay is a bit of fuel, to keep going and keep making things and stay inspired and connect with good people and do good work, all of that. When I'm feeling really creative and productive, that's kind of antidepressive for me.
Meditation is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Is it also part of the creative process?
For sure, yeah. I started meditating about 12 or 13 years ago, and I don't think I would have been able to get through all of the last, decade or so without meditation, really. It's hugely important. I mean, even just getting quiet, I think, especially with, our addiction to these machines and to, sensory stimulus all the time, we get in danger of just not even be able to hear ourselves think, not being able to hear the deep voices of instinct, or whatever you want to call it, that wants to come through, because there's so much static. So even just taking 1 or 2 times a day where you get quiet, I think you can't overstate how important that is, especially today.
The last publication.
Hi, we're from Vogue India.
Oh, hi.
Hi. What made you decide to take part in? I mean, what was the pushing factor?
They asked me. I mean, really, that was it. And I really loved Sharad, and then I talked to Lakshmi, and I looked at a couple videos online, and I always value opportunities when people are asking me to speak just as me, and I do a lot of college speaking. I've been doing that for the last couple of years, and I really enjoy it. So, you know, they gave me pretty free rein about what I could talk about, and I just felt like it was a great opportunity, and I wanted to come back to India, and so you know, it was just one of those things I said yes to, and then got terrified and said, why did I say yes to that? But now I'm happy I said yes.
So you mentioned you got terrified. Did you manage to feel any other emotions now that it's done with?
I'm happy that the speech seems to have landed on people because you know, it's quite vulnerable. I kind of feel like it's even in my work too. It's people I think tend to respond to when you say you're vulnerable. Like, you know, if I hear someone say like, oh, you know, sometimes I get sad or sometimes I get insecure, I'm like, really? I do too. You know what I mean? Because it's so human, and I don't really like seeing people kind of boast about that they don't feel anything. Yeah, I mean, it's just not that interesting. That said, I think we, you know, should celebrate our accomplishments and all that, but I also think we all get dinged up and we all feel all these things. So, but it's scary when you contemplate standing up in front of a couple hundred people and telling really personal stories, because you don't know. But that's the other thing. I mean, one of the reasons I love traveling is because I do feel like people are. I mean, there are cultural differences certainly, and there's different temperaments to different countries. But largely, everywhere you go, it's like being a human being is being a human being. Like we all get hit with the same stuff. So there's a relief to speaking halfway around the world and really having people hear it, because it makes the world, like I said, feel smaller, and it makes you feel less alone. And for that, I'm really grateful.